It's about 9 pages long. But I won't read it for I'll spare you guys. But it's not easy summing up 74 years of anyone's life. Writing as his daughter. I'm not really sure where to start when talking about him, but my earliest memory of him, I think, was when I was reading a book to him when I was in 1st grade. It was one of those little child-made teacher, the books where you colored it in and it had like the readers at the bottom. And it was about Abraham Lincoln. I don't know if you guys know about my dad and his feelings about Abraham Lincoln, but that made it quite funny. But when I was reading it to him, there was a part about Abraham Lincoln reading next to candlelight because he didn't have lights. And my dad, when I was reading the sentence, he said, well, why didn't Abe just turn on the lights? And I'm like, I thought he was the biggest dumbass. I really believe that he didn't know that Abraham Lincoln didn't have lights. And he really had no idea why. And so as a 6-year-old kiddo, I was telling him about why Abraham Lincoln didn't have lights. And I really thought I was teaching something. And he played along with it, and he was such a good sport about it. But I couldn't wait to go and tell my teacher about my dad not knowing Abraham Lincoln didn't have lights. And so I did. And she left. Luckily, she knew my family quite well. So. In 1980s, dad typically worked, came home, and went to bed. But not my dad. There were a lot of dads that I didn't see out on baseball fields. I didn't see them in the stands at games. And I'm sure every family has their own reasons why. But dad made it a point to come to all that stuff. When we were kids, my mom worked at a beauty shop on Thursday and Friday nights, and we would be left home alone with my dad, and we always knew that the adventures would start when she would walk out the door. We never knew if they were going to be positive or not so great, but we knew that there was a chance that there was some fun to be had ahead. A lot of times he would tell us, hey kids, you want to go plumbing? And what plumbing meant was, you may remember what this means because we probably paid a visit at dinner time unannounced at your house, right, Carly?
Yep.
Yes. So he would pile us in a car, and the car, it was red. I don't know what kind of car it was, but he called it the bomb because it sounded like a bomb when we drove it around. It was loud and probably not passing emissions test, but driving in it anyway.
I didn't have those back then.
So we went bumming. Bumming was when he would put Missy and I in the car and stop by people's houses unannounced. It was not unusual for us to hop in a red car to jump the bomb. But that's what it sounded like, with a cigarette hanging from his mouth and a pack of Winstons in his shirt pocket. We'd make a short trek to the Edelmans, right? Yeah. We would go to Papa Knott's. We would stop at my Jaja's and hope that he wasn't mad at us because we hadn't stopped to see him in quite some time, or if we let too much time pass between seeing my grandfather, he would not be happy with us. Cousin Joe's, or liquor stores, sometimes all in one evening. What's unbelievable is everyone was always happy to see him with his 2 girls in tow. They knew our names at the liquor store, and we often got a free piece of candy from the cashier. We'd usually do this on nights my mom worked, probably so he didn't have to be alone to entertain 2 small girls. As a parent now, I understand his game. On the nights mom worked, he would let us eat in front of the TV and watch Family Ties and Cosby Show. He'd wash our hair in the kitchen sink, comb our hair, and tuck us in bed. In 1st grade, he chaperoned my class on a zoo trip. Again, this was not in vogue for fathers in the 80s to take a 1st grade class on a field trip. It may not even be today. I don't know. I think they're more likely to do it today. But Mrs. D'Amico, my 1st grade teacher, put me in a group with my dad, My mom also went on a field trip, just so you know. She was also on the field trip and got all my little girlfriends in her group. My dad had me and two of the most troublesome boys in my class in his group. And we walked around the zoo and he kept asking me, what's wrong with these boys? What's wrong with these boys? They were the two Johns, and I'll leave last names out. They're the two Johns. And one John was like walking around the zoo acting like a pigeon the whole time. My dad was like, what is up with that kid? The other John would disappear. And my dad couldn't find him, and then he would find us and reappear and follow the group. And my dad was, I think his nerves were pretty fried by the end of the day, but I remember being a little resentful that I was put in that group with dad and the boys instead of my mom with all my girlfriends. He did get a certificate at the end of the day that said he was a dilly of a dad, and it was a dancing pickle. And he had it on the fridge for years. He had a dilly of a dad, and Mrs. Domingo signed it herself as a dancing pickle on there.
Was it a scratch and sniff?
It was a scratch and sniff, yes. And it smelled like a dilly.
That is
It was a dilly of a dad.
it's very extra.
He was always big on pranks and teasing, sometimes to the point of tears. Every now and again, we'd get him back. We actually mastered the skill of getting dad back, especially when we got older. Missy and Dad and I would hide behind doors, under furniture, behind corners, and scare each other constantly. But Dad had nerves of steel, and nothing would even make him flinch. He was a victim of many pranks, but had the ability to laugh them off. For example, we lived in a house on 127th Street in Lamont where if you were in the shower and someone flushed the toilet, you got called in. Like, so you might see where this is going. Missy and I would wait until Dad got in the shower, and then we would flush the toilet just to hear him scream four-letter words with our name next on those words. And we would laugh and giggle on the other side. He was never mad. He would drop these four-letter words and like laugh it off and tell us he's gonna get us back, but he never did scold us the same way, which was probably good parenting. We liked leaving his bathroom with no toilet paper on the roll or anywhere in the bathroom. We would time it right so that we would take all the toilet paper out knowing he was gonna go in there. He would have no toilet paper. And he would start screaming our names to get him a roll of toilet paper, and we would just sit on the other side of the wall and laugh and ask him what he was gonna do about it. And he would drop four-letter words and our names would follow it. And then we would cover our eyes, take the toilet paper, open the door, and just throw toilet paper at him. Again, he didn't get mad. He had a sense of humor about that as well. And he never did it back to us, which was, again, good parenting. Lost my place here, my apologies. So I don't know if you guys remember, but late 80s, early 90s, cordless phones were a thing. You had the base wherever you had it plugged in, and then the cordless phone would be wherever it was convenient for you in the house. For my dad, it was next to his recliner in the living room. But the base was in my room because for some reason having the base in my room made me feel like I had my own phone, even though I never had any free reign over the phone anyway. But we would press the page button and it would be at the bottom of the stairs by his recliner. And he would pick it up and say, hello. And Missy and I would be laughing upstairs and hitting the page button because he thought he was getting a phone call and really again, four-letter words would follow that. My name and Missy's name would be after that. He laughed it off and he moved forward with his day. Here's a fun fact, but I had no specific memories other than he hated bees, hornets, and wasps. He would wrangle a snake, he would kill spiders, but if a bee flew anywhere in his radius, he'd scream like a girl. So we would constantly buy him birthday cards that had bees on it, or make little crafts with bees on it, or research paper about bees. he enjoyed playing euchre with family and friends. Lots of fun memories of him playing euchre at Wrobel parties that would go well into the next morning. He would eventually have enough of cards and leave, only to put on his bathing suit and play at the pool with the kids, with me and my cousins that were very similar to me. I heard the story of Dan's initial disappointment at my birth when he found out I was a girl. I heard it took him about 5 minutes to get over it, and he decided he would not raise me like one. Missy was born not long after that, and he admitted being disappointed a little bit longer because he really thought this one was going to be a boy. Like me, he didn't raise her like a girl either. So what do you do when you have two girls instead of boys? You make them your apprentice anyway and treat them you would. It's fun if you had one. It started off with holding flashlights and holding ladders while he hung Christmas lights. When we mastered that, he had us knocking down drywall, hanging drywall, sledgehammering wrought iron bathtubs, replacing shingles on our roof, replacing toilets, repairing sump pumps, splitting wood with an axe, and changing tires on cars. We were told to stay away from the soldering gun. He never let us touch a soldering gun. He said that would hurt. He never let us near anything electrical because that was dangerous. Those were off limits. I don't even, a lot of those were off limits. Electricity and soldering.
Dad didn't like electricity either. He would get zapped a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd try, and then he'd call my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no electricity. He would touch anything
Yes.
but electricity.
Joe hung our ceiling lights, I think, in our kitchen.
Yep.
Yep.
He was limits.
Yeah, he knew his limits. Never wanted to put our life at risk.
Axes were okay.
Axes were okay. From the time I was 10 to the time I was 15, he was my softball coach. If he took a year off being my coach, it was only because he was Missy's coach. It always worked out better on the years we played on the same team, so he could coach us at the same time. Dad had a nickname for everyone on the team, and I cannot remember any player not liking him. He was well liked by my player friends. So many fun coaching memories. He preferred coaching third base, and he had a perfect view of me getting a hit by hundreds of pitches over the years. While I was a decent hitter, I was often hit by pitches because of my height, and I was not scared of the ball, so if I didn't react in time, it just nailed me. And he would shout out, "What the hell is wrong with you? You see that coming at you, damn it, Laura, take your base." The answer was yes, but not before it was too late. I didn't see it coming at me, but it was always just too late. When the team would huddle before a game started, he'd say a prayer out loud for none of us to get hurt. I used to be embarrassed when he did that, but now I find it precious. We would go in our little huddle and he would say, go team or whatever it was. And then he'd say, "God, please take care of these girls. Let's not let anyone get hurt." And then we'd go hit the field. And I remember all of us girls looking at each other like, "Praying for us." The upset this is the next story, sorry. When I was 10, I hit my first home run. Dad signaled me to run home while jumping up and down. He's crazy. The ump said I had to go back to third, and Dad disputed the call with the ump, and the ump said I could come home. At home plate, my dad's giant hand was waiting for me to slap, followed by a bunch of and sending me off to the dugout. It was a good day. All of my childhood memories playing sports, that one was my most vivid and favorite. Those years were easy. Then Missy and I reached middle school at the same time. And for the most part, we did pretty well with the hormones, the tears, the inability to stay satiated. Leaving curling irons on, fighting, head rolls, eye rolls, braces, headgears, big hair, weight fluctuations, and smart mouths. The two of us were so awkward looking, yet every day he made sure to tell us how beautiful we were. And he told us he loved us every single day. He and my mom both do. All the way up until the day he died. Every single time he would leave, he would say, I love you. Every single time. He always commented on how unnecessary it was for us to wear makeup because we were pretty enough already. The truth was that we were really quite ugly in middle school. But he made us feel beautiful and that we could do anything. Dad never failed at telling us we were smart, talented, and loved. Throughout high school, Dad was just about at every game, regardless if it was home or away. He was at every award ceremony, every play, everything. He hated plays, by the way, and he was extremely upset because I decided to give up softball my senior year so that I could play the town drunk in the school play. He was not impressed. He couldn't believe I threw all those years of softball away to do this. The year I tried chorus in 8th grade, after an afternoon of ensembles, looking like he'd rather stab a sharp stick in his eye when he was there. And I sang from the top of my lungs, and he stayed for the whole thing. It was awful. There were countless times he traveled to Eastern to get me when I'd call up home crying due to homesickness. He didn't adjust well my freshman year. He'd make the 3-hour trek down and back on Friday to pick me up again on Sunday to bring me back, or doing it again on Sunday to bring me back. Eventually, I was told to put my name on a writer's board yeah, in the dorm lobby, and he took a meeting when he knew I was starting to take advantage of his services. He helped me find an apartment in St. Louis and toured graduate schools with me and make sure I found a safe place to live. This is where it gets hard. While Dad was full of life, it was almost to the extreme, and he didn't take care of himself. He died at 74, which is really way too young to die in this day and age with all the medical advancements we have nowadays. I really wish he would have taken better care of himself. He was born, he just still continued to live life the way he wanted to live it. Can't blame him for that. At times I feel resentful because he could have had so many more times together with us if he would have just taken better care of himself. The point I'm trying to make is that live life hard like Dad, but take care of yourself so your loved ones can have you longer. To share with everyone what the last 4 months of his life was like. He had a low risk shoulder surgery on July 2nd. He went to rehab to get himself healed so he could have a hip surgery because he needed that too. Rehab took longer than anticipated, and he needed more care than his current assisted living could provide for him, so he moved to a nursing home setting. His insides were breaking down one organ at a time, causing fluid retention and hospitalization. Dad was showing signs at the end of life, of the end of life. Difficult discussions about his future care and the road ahead were had. His medical team, along with Dad, Missy, and I, decided hospice was the best option. And I tried to make him as comfortable as possible, but making sure he was heavily medicated so as not to feel any pain. I played oldies music softly, sang to him, held his hand, read some scripture, and helped telling him it's okay to leave us. Not sure how many of you have had have been in the position to be with someone at the end of their life. While it's tragic and awful, it is also beautiful. It's tough though when you know it's coming to an end and it's the last birthday card you'll give your grandchild. When you know that you're decorating the room for Christmas because it's his favorite holiday and he would likely not see it. When he hands you his phone and says, I won't be needing this where I'm going, take it. When is the last time you celebrated his birthday, which was just 2 weeks before he passed? We went out to dinner, he ate well, he celebrated, he was happy, he was conversational. He worked really hard in rehab to transfer himself from the wheelchair to the car, to the wheelchair, and back to his bed. He worked hard for that. We had a great day. It's hard telling visitors that you know want to say their goodbyes not to come because he was just too sick. And when you think he's not listening, but he has occasional outbursts asking you to stay. And then eventually stops responding to anything at all, and you just wait. While this sounds horrifying, there is so much peace and beauty in it. Per Dad's outburst request, I stayed the night the Friday before he passed. He was reaching his arms up and smiling and mumbling. And then he'd stare at me and gasp for air. Hospice nurses were telling me he's likely reaching for those who were welcoming him into heaven. And it was beautiful. I've never doubted whether or not heaven is real, but this just completely reinforced it. It's real. He was reaching for people that were glad to see him on the other side. So whoever it is that you have over there, he's with them, and they were calling for him, and I got to see it. 2 more days went by, and I sat with him having Missy on FaceTime in Germany until midnight our time and 6 a.m. her time. I decided it was time for us to part ways, and that if he was going to pass away, it was meant to be when nobody else was around. Because I had been there 3 nights in a row, and he just kept keeping on. And I thought, you know, maybe he doesn't want an audience. He doesn't want to be on FaceTime with Germany, his daughter in Germany. And so we left, and he died 3 hours later. God knew exactly when he was taking him. And it was his plan whether someone was going to be around to witness it or not. The decision to have today's service and celebration of life was so that everybody who wanted to come could plan flights and time off work. Dad loved parties and people. Stupid Omicron spoiled our plan, but I am so happy that all of you have made it. I'm so glad that you guys took the risk, and I'm so glad that you guys love us enough to be here today. And for all of you who are at home and watching this on YouTube, I know you wanted to be here. And I'm sorry that you couldn't make it. I want to thank everyone for coming. And on that note, eat, drink, and be merry. Go back.